The expense ratio rule, a guide to business efficiency and financial success. Introduction to the expense ratio. The expense ratio is one of the most powerful financial indicators for any business. It shows the relationship between your operating costs and the income you generate. When monitored and managed well, it improves both profitability and long-term sustainability. Understanding the expense ratio. The expense ratio shows how much of your revenue is spent running the business. It reflects operational efficiency by comparing operating expenses to revenue. Formula. Expense ratio equals operating expenses divided by revenue. Operating expenses include salaries, rent, utilities, marketing, and administration. Revenue is the total income earned from your sales or services. Why the expense ratio matters. A lower expense ratio usually means higher profits. It helps you control spending and remain financially stable. A healthy ratio builds investor trust and boosts business value. Kenyan SMEs like Java House track this metric closely to ensure growth without excessive cost. Globally, companies like Walmart use expense ratio monitoring to maintain thin margins and remain competitive. Interpreting the expense ratio. High expense ratio equals more spending relative to income. This can signal inefficiency or slow revenue growth. Low expense ratio equals better control over costs and more room for profit. While 50% is often a good benchmark, ideal figures vary by industry. E.g., a Nairobi-based software company may have a 30% ratio. A construction firm in Kisumu might work with a 60% ratio due to high material costs. Expense ratio in action, example 1. Operating expenses, $200,000. Revenue, $500,000. Expense ratio equals 200,000 divided by 500,000 is equal to 0.4 or 40%. Interpretation. 40 cents of every dollar earned go toward operating costs. The business retains 60% for profit before tax and interest. Expense ratio in action, example 2. Operating expenses, $300,000. Revenue, $600,000. Expense ratio equals 300,000 divided by 600,000 is equal to 0.5 or 50%. Interpretation. Half of the income is consumed by operating expenses. The company may need to reduce costs or grow revenue to increase profits. How expense ratio affects profitability. The lower the expense ratio, the greater your profit margin. High ratios reduce room for reinvestment or savings. A business with a 40% ratio has 60% left to cover taxes, interest, and profits. For example, Kenya Airways faces tight margins, reducing operating costs boosts survival. Amazon keeps ratios low through scale and automation. The expense ratio rule. Successful businesses set an ideal target ratio based on industry standards. The rule is: keep your expense ratio low enough to ensure profitability, but not so low that you underinvest in growth. Adjust operations and monitor regularly to stay within this target. How to lower your expense ratio. Grow revenue without growing costs at the same pace. Cut inefficiencies such as waste or non-essential spending. Negotiate better contracts with suppliers and vendors. Increase productivity through upskilling and tech adoption. Example, a Nairobi-based cleaning company digitizes scheduling, reducing admin costs by 30%. Industry benchmarks matter. Every industry has different norms. Tech startups, lower ratios due to fewer fixed assets. Retail chains, moderate ratios with higher operational costs. Manufacturing, higher ratios due to machinery and labor. Use benchmarking to understand where your business stands. In Kenya, compare to similar businesses using data from financial reports or chambers of commerce. Aligning the expense ratio with growth. Lowering expenses is important, but growth investment matters too. The goal is balance. Spend wisely on marketing, R&D, and systems that generate future revenue. Example: a Kenyan cosmetics brand increases marketing spend in 2023, raising short-term costs but doubling revenue in 2024. Technology and the expense ratio. Smart tech reduces manual labor and saves time. Automation tools cut back on repetitive tasks. Data analytics highlight inefficiencies. Cloud solutions reduce IT infrastructure costs. Global example: Uber uses automation and data to manage costs across regions. Kenyan example: Twiga Foods uses mobile and logistics software to optimize delivery routes. Expense ratios at different business stages. Startups often have high ratios due to early investments. Established businesses stabilize and focus on scale. Mature firms fine-tune efficiency to maximize profitability. Plan for ratio improvements over time, don't expect instant results. Financial health risks of a high expense ratio. A consistently high ratio leads to slimmer profit margins, cash flow challenges, limited ability to reinvest or compete on pricing. For example, a small distributor in Mombasa with a 75% ratio struggles to pay suppliers during off-peak seasons. Case study comparing two companies. Company A, 70% expense ratio. High costs, low profits, constant cash issues. Company B, 40% expense ratio. Streamlined operations, healthy margins, and room to grow. Takeaway: efficient cost control boosts profitability and ensures sustainability. Best practices for managing expense ratios. Review your expense ratio monthly or quarterly. Compare it to industry averages regularly. Implement cost-saving initiatives without affecting quality. Invest in revenue-generating activities that justify their cost. Always link expense control to long-term strategy. Final summary and key messages. The expense ratio tells a powerful story about your business health. Aim for a low but sustainable ratio, one that supports growth without draining resources. Combine revenue expansion with disciplined cost control. Use tech, data, and benchmarking to stay ahead. Whether you're running a startup in KZI or a multinational in New York, mastering your expense ratio leads to financial success. Take control of your expense ratio. Ready to take control of your business expenses? Start tracking your expense ratio today. Use it to guide decisions, cut waste, and grow smart. Let this simple metric become a strategic tool in your business toolkit. Plan smarter. Spend wiser. Grow stronger. Thank you for watching.